Good morning, everyone. A little bit different situation we normally have here. We're going to do cover two separate investigations, but they're linked in not case-wise, but they're linked in trying to reduce violence in the neighborhood. So let me go through. First, I want to go through the Growhouse Operation and tell you why these things are important. And I think you've already been told in 2016 we started this investigation, and that was thanks to a lot of tips that were anonymously provided through our Crime Stoppers program. And there were many hours of surveillance that revealed a large organization that spanned from Hillsborough County, Pasco, and as far north as Marion County. And like many of these operations we've had, they're tied to Miami, and they're certainly well organized. In order to fully identify, investigate, and dismantle the organization, detectives employed a wide variety of techniques and invested a great deal of manpower in this investigation. They made the investigation a priority because they recognized that the danger of this type of organization poses to the community. In recent years, the Sheriff's Office has investigated many violent incidents associated with marijuana grow houses. These incidents have included several home invasion robberies, aggravated battery, and cases involving firearms, as well as homicide. After months of intense investigation, working with the State Attorney's Office, the case was recently brought to a very successful conclusion. 13 search warrants were served, 10 of which were executed in Hillsborough County. The Pasco County Sheriff's Office and the Marion County Sheriff's Office also executed search warrants at locations related to this organization. 6 grow houses were found, which contained a total of 481 marijuana plants. The seized plants, along with an additional 24.5 pounds of processed marijuana, totaled $1.4 million in street value. $97,000 in drug proceeds were also seized, along with 10 firearms. Most importantly, 13 subjects were arrested on a variety of serious charges, including racketeering and drug trafficking. And let me just, we'll go through all the names and things, and that'll all be provided to you, but what is more important than statistics here is what I just said, the crimes that are related to these grow houses. And these grow houses are occurring in neighborhoods where people are living, they're raising families. And I talked about the homicides, the aggravated batteries, the firearms, the guns that it's bringing into the neighborhoods. But also, in at least 6 of these cases, the only reason we knew there was a grow house, and I'm going back in the last couple of years, is because of fires that were started from these illegal circuit boards and things that are put in these houses. They're stealing electricity, and a lot of these houses are zero lot line houses, and we've had significant fires where the fire department responds and we find out that it's a grow house operation. So there's significant danger, and it is certainly bringing a tough crowd to the neighborhoods. These are not people that are living in the neighborhoods. They're coming up from Miami. They're getting these houses. In this particular operation were primarily in the west side town and country area north, but they're going into neighborhoods and they're operating behind the scenes, and they really don't care about the people that live there. They don't care if there are home invasions that occur, and they don't care if they bring a public safety a problem to them as far as fires. So I'm going to stop on that one now. I'm going to move to the spice, and I'm going to go through that real quick, and then I'm going to have Mr. Warren is going to speak about the prosecution, and then Major Losat will take any specific questions you have. Now on the spice operation, over the last several years, incidents involving subjects under the influence of synthetic marijuana, commonly known as spice, have dramatically increased, and we've seen these all around in videos throughout the United States. And many of the videos that you have seen that are dramatic, where people are really not complying with law enforcement or are doing some very violent, committing violent acts, this is a result of spice or things closely related to it. The side effects of spice, such as paranoia, hallucinations, and suicidal thoughts, make interactions difficult and dangerous. These incidents included, and I'm talking about the ones in Hillsborough County that we tracked. These incidents included overdoses and intoxicated suspects who sometimes attacked or violently resisted law enforcement. In December 2016, as a response to the increase in spice-related crime within Hillsborough County, a group comprised of undercover personnel began to investigate where spice was being stored and manufactured. The group developed an action plan which was aimed at combating all levels of spice distribution, to include street-level dealers, middle-level distributors and businesses, and upper-level spice manufacturers. Throughout the investigation, the detectives investigated a wide range of suspects, including homeless persons and certified gang members, as well as owners of businesses with no prior involvement in the criminal justice system. Detectives coordinated with the state attorney's office regarding operations and search warrants. Additionally, the group was assisted by agents of the Florida Division of Alcohol, Beverage, and Tobacco and Hillsborough County Code Enforcement, who assisted with citing and revoking the licenses of businesses actively involved in selling spice. 2 major investigations were conducted during the investigation. The first case occurred in District 1 near the University of South Florida and resulted in the seizure of 150 pounds or 7,200 packages of spice that were already packaged for sale. During the investigation, another 222 pounds of Damiana leaves used to manufacture spice was seized, along with $10,500 in U.S. currency. The spice had an approximate street value of $352,000. The second investigation involved the dismantling of a spice manufacturing operation and the seizure of 92 pounds of spice with a street value of approximately $87,500. Along with the spice, detectives seized numerous containers of chemicals used to manufacture and package spice. The leaves come into the country through Mexico. They're grown in different places, some in the United States, but there's some legitimacy to the tea leaves coming in here. They're ultimately used in putting the spice together. The corridor for that is the border in Mexico. The chemicals, the precursor chemicals that are used to make the spice come from China, and they're illegal to possess. And this has been a tough, if you've been following this, the spice has been a difficult thing because of the changes in the formula of this, but we're starting to get our arms around that. Since December 2016, there's been a dramatic decrease in the number of incidents involving spice. From the beginning of December 2015 through mid-May of 2016, the Sheriff's Office responded to 166 calls related to spice. During the same period this year, as this investigation was narrowing in on these people, the number of incidents was only 97. It was a 42% decrease. These investigations can work. And we're looking at calls for service, and those are some of the calls I'll mention to you in a minute that are related to these. Some of the statistics in this case: 38 subjects have been arrested, 8 have active arrest warrants for spice and other drug crimes. Several more subjects will possibly be charged pending lab results. Court-authorized search warrants and consent searches were served at 5 businesses actively selling spice in Hillsborough County. I have a list of those businesses for you, and code enforcement either has or is in the process of citing them and trying to shut those businesses down. We've recovered 6 firearms during the course of the investigation. Stolen vehicles, over $43,000 in currency was seized during the investigation. There's certainly big money involved. What's important for parents to understand, this spice is probably, there's a lot of things out there, but spice being one of the most readily available and dangerous to our children. That is a synopsis of these cases. We'll get more into the facts. I'm going to have Mr. Warren kind of talk about the prosecution into this, and then we have Major Losat here, and if we have any specifics, and he can probably certainly give you his street cop deals and this stuff, and can talk about how this impacts the neighborhood. Mr. Warren.
Well, good morning, everyone. I commend Sheriff G., the Special Investigations Division, and all the detectives and deputies who were involved in these successful investigations. We're proud to partner with the Sheriff's Office on these long-term, resource-intensive investigations using a variety of enhanced investigative techniques. This is tedious and dangerous work, and it's another example of how good these guys are at doing their job, day in and day out. Now, as State Attorney, I've prioritized targeting the crimes that pose the greatest threats to our community. And while we're working on expanding diversion programs, for low-level, nonviolent, first-time offenders, including misdemeanor marijuana possession. We're going to be tough on the kingpins, the gangs, and the criminal syndicates that bring drugs, such as synthetics as spice, into our community and sell it to our children. These busts yielded some 51 arrests, dozens of charges, multiple grow houses and distribution facilities, $140,000 in cash, multiple firearms, and more. Sheriff G and I will not tolerate armed and dangerous criminals running massive drug operations in Hillsborough County. It's not going to happen on our watch. Now, we're going to prosecute the people involved in these organizations to neutralize the threat that they pose to our community. We're going to continue to target large-scale drug operations in Hillsborough County, and we're going to continue fighting every day to make a safer community for all of us. Thank you.
There's questions. We've got Mr. Warren and the major here. So if you have any specific questions on either the laws that are involved, the prosecution, or anything else, we'll be glad to take them.
Sure. How important is this for you to increase the quality of life for the residents of Hillsborough County?
Well, I'll tell you, you need to be able to go into neighborhoods and make a difference. If we're just going in and we're making arrests and there's no end result, then we just tie the criminal justice system up, and it doesn't seem to make sense. But when you can go into a community and you can decrease calls for service, and people tell you, you take a grow house in our neighborhood and they thank you, and they say, wow, things are better in our neighborhood. We're not having a lot of criminal element in here anymore since you did this thing. That's what makes a difference. And that's really the way we gear our operations. We ask, can we make a difference in a neighborhood? Can we make a difference in life? If we do, we'll put the resources in it. And that's kind of the common theme here with these things. They're tied to neighborhoods, they're tied to kids, and we're trying to have a lasting result instead of wasting resources.
What are some of those neighborhoods that were targeted, and why do you think so many of these grow houses are in our county? What attracts them?
Here's the expert here.
For some reason, the suspects involved in the Growhouse Operations are renting houses. They're leasing houses for short periods of times. They're going in there, renovating them to their needs, and then setting up shop. I don't have a specific reason why they're coming to Hillsborough County. We're keeping a handle on it so it doesn't explode on us, and the crime doesn't go up like we've mentioned and the sheriff mentioned before. We're trying to keep everybody safe, and there's only one way to do that is to stay aggressive and keep making these cases against these groups that are setting up shop in Hillsborough County.
Now some of these grow houses were they were in really bold places. One of them was like a half-mile away from Orion Road Jail. Another one was right across the street from Folsom Elementary School. Why do these people, feel like they can just go in these areas that are pretty sensitive?
Not sure why they're going into certain areas, but I think it's really to do with what house they can find that's maybe a little bit secluded a little bit. You think if somebody goes into a house across from a school area, that property is going to be vacant sometime after 5, 6 o'clock in the evening when school shuts down, so there won't be a lot of traffic in that area for somebody to watch that house. So don't know their real thought process of why they're picking certain houses. We can only surmise on that, but we're going to stay aggressive on it.
Being across the street from that school, that anything could happen that could have been bad for, these hundreds of kids who are going to school there.
Correct, and that's like the sheriff addressed a few minutes ago, is if a home invasion does occur at that house and there's gunshots that are fired, there's a school, like you mentioned, directly across the street. We don't want that. Any of these suspects start running during those invasions, where are they going to run? They're going to run towards a school, it's open area, then that presents a whole another issue that we have to deal with. So if we can stay ahead of this and get these houses identified and keep working and shutting them down, that's what we're going to continue to do.
Were people in the neighborhood helpful too by calling and letting you know that they saw things that just didn't look right?
I would suspect they did. Most of our complaints came from Crime Stoppers, so we don't know the true identity of any of those people or where that call came from. I would suspect because the marijuana puts off such an odor that the neighborhood and children can smell it, and we're getting calls on it, and we're addressing it.
Did anyone get any Crime Stopper rewards for turning in tips?
That's being evaluated now. Crime Stoppers awards are not paid out until the Crime Stopper itself is closed out by the detective that's assigned to it, and then it goes to the back to Crime Stoppers and they evaluate it. The Sheriff's Office does not determine a dollar amount that they get.
Regarding the spice, I know you're going to release the list of places where people are getting it, but if you could describe what kinds of stores and things these are. I know sometimes, you know, they're in unexpected places like pizza shops, and kids in the neighborhood just happen to know that they can go in and get something like this.
We didn't have any pizza shops in this one. We had a beverage drive-through, the ones you still drive through, and convenience stores. That's what we're mainly finding these shops selling the spices. Your typical convenience stores and beverage drive-throughs.
In that beverage drive-through, there was a homicide there, wasn't there?
There was last year. It was not related that we know of to spice. We believe that was a robbery, that the store clerk shot that individual, the suspect, and died. And that was one of the businesses we served a search warrant on during the current investigation.
Are these kind of things just out on shelves, or do you have to be in the know to know that some place is selling them?
You have to be in the know, and that's what makes it very hard for the undercover personnel to get into these stores. It takes time. You don't walk in one time and buy spice from a convenience store or from a drive-through. Either you have to have some knowledge of how to get it. There's key words they use sometimes to order the spice, and it's sold in various packages. As you can see, they're very decorative and attractive for the kids and that want to draw their attention to the package. So they're in convenience stores.
I know you can't go into great detail about this investigation, how you carried it out, but can you talk maybe generally about, you know, were there undercover officers, were there multiple surveillance? How did you nail these guys as behind this?
A little bit of everything. Some surveillance, a lot of undercover, all hours of the day, nights, weekends, dedicated a lot of resources, and like Mr. Warren said, some enhanced investigative surveillance that we have access to, and it all came together.
Based on the amount of spies and the organization of the group, would our region, Hillsborough County, be an epicenter for spies, or compared to other regions? How would you measure?
I think the whole country is feeling the effect of both spice and grow houses in general. Don't know if we're the epicenter for spice, but somebody decided it was a good place to set up shop and start manufacturing it, bringing it in from Mexico, and we found that one niche, we got into it, and those are the results of what we put our work into.
So is all of this connected right here? Is this all connected to kind of one group, everything that's over here, or is this a few different offshoots?
We have information, and some of the packaging is the same that we've recovered out of these storage units and houses that we found in some of the convenience stores, so we can link them together that way. And then through surveillance, some of the same people that we have at the storage units where a lot of this stuff came from, we're also seen going to the stores to make deliveries. So yes, that stuff is being brought to the stores.
I know you're going with Rico on a few of the guys over here, but are you doing anything with the spice as well, with prosecution and with Rico and racketeering?
Well, the cases right now are at the intake process, so we're continuing to evaluate the facts to determine what the appropriate charges are. As you suggested, we do have the ability to charge with racketeering for the coordinated efforts, and that's what we seem to have in both cases here. But as we continue to evaluate the charges, you'll see the charging instruments in the coming weeks.
And that brings, I mean, the racketeering, that obviously makes, the mandatories and everything much higher.
It triggers enhanced penalties as well as mandatory minimums. Again, our goal here is to target the people who are most responsible for running these operations and use all the legal tools at our disposal to make sure that we're getting them locked up for as long as possible.
You mentioned how attractive these packages are to children and teens. Are you seeing them pop up in places with children and teens? Are they showing up on school campuses?
We've had reports of we'll say teenagers using them. We'll go with under age of 17. So the deputies on the street and any agency are finding kids in possession of this stuff. Some of the buys we made from some of the dealers, they were walking around with it in a clear sandwich bag. So it's not necessarily always being packaged fancy and professional like you see it there, but they're walking around with it in a clear sandwich bag as well too, to sell it.
Are you going with a nuisance abatement board to try to shut those people down?
We are working with code enforcement and ABT on the administrative side, so we're going to leverage as much as we can on these businesses.
Sheriff G mentioned that some of these grow houses were in town and country area. Are there any other areas in the county where they seem to be concentrated?
This operation is mostly in town and country. We've done them all over the place. And the answer a minute ago, why do you see so many? One of the reasons you do see so many is there are so many rental houses available in Hillsborough County. Back during the downturn in the economy, there were so many houses, and investment companies bought a lot of these up. So the home ownership was a little bit down, and there are a lot more rental houses. And for a couple of years, there were neighborhoods in Riverview and different places where they were sitting vacant, brand new homes. So we've seen these all around the county, but it's a group out of, well-organized group. Miami is probably very easy. There's probably not a lot of background checks in some of these houses when they're doing it. And that's probably some of the reason why you get it. The market's just saturated. It's a hide in plain sight strategy. And this is a big county, so everybody's busy, neighborhoods are busy, and people don't pay as much of attention as they do sometimes in smaller communities, and I think that's probably part of it.
And I'm not sure how far along you are with processing, these guns, if you'd be able to tell if any of these guns have been used in other crimes in this area, or if, any of these guys were involved in any other high-profile crimes that might have popped up in the paper.
All the guns will be submitted to FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, for processing and analysis, and anything that comes back to a match to any other crime scenes throughout the country or wherever we can match it, we will follow up with that, even if it's out of state, involving any other agencies.
And where were they processing some of this stuff and packaging and making this stuff? Was it like in warehouses, in storage units, homes?
A little bit of both. Majority of this stuff, the bulk stuff, came from storage units, the public self-storage units. And some of it, they would keep it separate. So you'd have raw product in one area and then finished product in another unit, so it didn't get all seized at one time. But once the detectives were realizing the same people going to the same units, we were linking the pieces together, and that's the result.
How much did both investigations cost? You have to put a lot of overtime, and obviously sometimes when you do federal investigations, you get overtime money from the federal government.
And I don't know, we'll do it, and that's usually information that we do turn over to Mr. Warren's office, and that's part of in the penalty phase of consideration. But I will tell you, it's a considerable amount of, it's all personnel. It's a considerable amount of time that we're taking from other things. But that's what we do, and I think this will have a good result. I think definitely see a difference in our neighborhoods this summer. I mean, when you see calls drop from 166 to 90 something in these neighborhoods in a small area, that's significant. So that's what it's all about. So, okay, folks, thank you very much. We appreciate it.